This morning, a jury of 7 men and 5 women will hear opening statements in the criminal paperwork trial of former President Donald Trump.
Joining us to break it all down, let's welcome in Executive Director of the ACLJ and member of former President Trump's personal legal team, Jordan Sekulow. Good morning, Jordan.
Good morning.
So what do we expect to see today? I understand because of Passover, things will wrap up a little early, around 2 p.m.
That's right. So it's not going to be a full trial day. That would usually be 9 to 5, depending on who's testifying and how long the judge wants to go, and if they want to break a little early, because they're going to really do a hard stop at 2 o'clock. So I think what you'll definitely see is the opening statements by the prosecution and the opening statements by the defense. Usually those are about 90 minutes, but there's not a set time on that. And this is, again, a case that, because it's so unique, the charges, and we've talked through those before here on the show, you've got to take these 34 misdemeanor counts and then tie them to a federal election law to turn them into felonies. And they're going to have to do some work as the prosecution team to, of course, make the jurors understand that. But this is also about making the jurors trust them. And, of course, the Trump defense team will have, I think, the same opportunity today to get at least that far into their opening statements. And then the trial begins. And we could have our first witness called today. And if the leaks are true, that would be David Pecker from, from some of the more infamous newspaper stand magazines in the country.
Yeah, David Pecker, National Enquirer. He's the former publisher there. A lot of other names, Karen McDougal, Stormy Daniels herself, and Donald Trump apparently will take the stand in his own defense. How long do opening statements typically take in a case like this?
So the opening statements, it's typically 90 minutes. This could go longer. Now, they might think, you know what, the longer we go, the worse this gets, the more confused people get. But I think for the prosecution, again, they've got to make this feel like this is not about Donald Trump, the politician. This is about Donald Trump, the business person who is pulling a scam on his business and somehow is guilty of this federal crime here. Though, of course, to make this a federal crime, it has to be an election crime. So you've got to also make it a little bit about violating federal election law. So, again, 90 minutes, an hour to 90 minutes is usual, but there is not a set time. So if they feel like they've got to go longer or if they want to go shorter, they can.
So while all this is going on in one New York courtroom down the street, and another New York courtroom today, Attorney General Letitia James' challenge to Trump's $175 million civil trial bond will be heard. She says she's concerned about the financials of the bondholder and that they're not authorized to write business loans in New York. Obviously, the bondholder saying they are. What do you make of all this?
Yeah, I think the bondholder's a billionaire. She's mad that this got cut down to an amount that was pretty easy for Donald Trump and his team to handle. And so she's going to now fight the fact that he's willing to put up $145 million instead of $545 million, because this billionaire who is willing to take on some riskier bonds and known to do that and riskier business moves is somehow not going to be able to pay up if Donald Trump disappears.
Yeah. Jordan, what does the Trump defense look like as this plays out over the next couple of months? For example, I'm thinking about Stormy Daniels taking the stand and the cross-examination that would take place. And this is where you'd love to have cameras in the courtroom, because she signed a letter in 2018 saying that she never had an affair with Donald Trump. And that will be entered into the record. But it's just, I'm wondering if you have any insight into what Trump's defense is going to look like.
Well, of course, you're going to go after any of the prosecution witnesses. And you want to do that carefully. I mean, some of them you can be more aggressive on, but you don't want to make them out to look like you're just beating people up to beat them up. And so that's why it's a careful game. But really, what are you trying to make them all do? Is look like they're liars. So some have been convicted of lying before. So one of the former attorneys to President Trump has been. So you would obviously use that in court. It's a fact. It's truth. The court has found it. He served time for doing it, and in a court of law. For Stephanie Richards, Stormy Daniels, whatever you want to say, these agreements she signed, statements she's made publicly that there was no relationship, and then kind of like threats that I'm going to come out and say there is a relationship, and you start using that against people like that. Again, you go to the character and the past statements and who they are, so the jurors realize, again, you can't take anything for granted in these trials, and don't take anything for truth. You really have to sit there and think, okay, I know they're putting their best face forward, but they are going to be grilled if they do that, and that's why It is unfortunate we don't get cameras. I mean, most trial courts do allow them, but and we are going to rely, of course, on journalists to see this. But I would imagine that this is going to be interesting enough that journalists will be able to paint a pretty good picture for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
All
it
right.
all starts today. Here we
Yeah.
go. Yep.
Jordan, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jordan.
Absolutely. Appreciate it.